Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. I've received a lot of questions for a while now, over the months, and multiple people asking the same questions. So I thought it'd be good to address this, in a video, just so people have the answers. One of the questions is about aspirational heroes. There's a little confusion about some of the specifics of what makes the aspirational hero archetype. And it's been a while since I talked about aspirational heroes. And when I really did a lot of videos defining the aspirational hero, I was talking about Superman in particular, because we were going through the Snyder, really trying to rough him up and deconstruct him nonsense and stuff like that. And we talked some about Luke Skywalker and everything as well. So to 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 give you some specifics, or some of the questions that have been asked. For example, when I would talk about Batman, I did a video a while ago talking about how Batman, as he was supposed to be, as the character was presented to the public decades and decades long, as the character was formed by their feedback, was an aspirational hero. And I'm not just talking about cheesy Silver Age, Batman. No, I'm talking about the Batman who existed in the comics right up until the Frank Miller era. And there was that real push to make him darker, darker, darker. And you could make him somewhat darker, but then they kind of started crossing the line. Tim Burton, as wonderful as that movie was, he was the first one to do it by making him kill. Uh, Chris Nolan just jumped straight up off the deep end and made him this simpering, conflicted, psychologically tortured individual behind the mask and so forth. Zack Snyder, of course, just straight up made him a killer and a torturer and somebody who likes doing it, quite frankly. And Matt Reeves picked up on that as well. I'll talk about that in a moment. It's going to be, no, Matt Reeves about him learning not to do it. That's what everybody says. They said that about Zack Snyder too. It's a ridiculous justification. I'll get to that. But there were questions. There were honest questions, though, about that, saying, well, how can he be an aspirational hero? Because his background is tragedy. And if you remember, if you don't, I'll place a link in the when I cut this out to make it its own video, I'll place a link in the top corner to the video I did about the origin stories of heroes, how there are two parts to a superhero's origin story. You have the empowerment and the call to action, or the call to heroism. They can happen in either order. They can happen in sometimes close together at once. And there are certain qualifiers that apply to them. It's by chance, it's by destiny. This and that is by a tragic failure, of the character, perhaps. And I mentioned that aspirational heroes, their empowerment is always due to a destiny. Like Superman, for example, Jor-El sent him to Earth so that he could help Earth grow into a greater tomorrow. It's a destiny. Wonder Woman was sent, even in certain times that she was rebooted and whatnot, before the New 52 nonsense, there was a destiny about her birth. She was something special about her birth there among the Amazons, and she was sent to man's world to help bridge the gap between the two worlds. So a destiny aspect of it. So then they're like, well, how can Batman be that if this and that? So that's one question I had. Then there was the question. Maybe I'll go ahead and just answer that right now. We'll do that first. Batman does have a destiny origin. Long before before his seeing his parents murdered, that was his call to action. That's not his empowerment. His empowerment, of course, is him going off and studying and becoming the honing his body and mind and all of that. But long before that, even, he was born into the Wayne family. And none of this nonsense about how people are trying to deconstruct the Waynes and, oh, Thomas Wayne was a sketchy figure, and they can't, people just can't handle aspirational heroes anymore, or characters anymore. They got to tear them down, got to rough them up, muddy them up. And ultimately, it's because these people have darkness in their own lives. They have nihilism in their lives. They have problems. They have skeletons in their closet, as anybody does to a certain degree, but they don't want to be better. They don't want, that's the current narrative from hero stories today, right? Don't give me a story or a character that says I should be better. No. Give me a character that says I'm perfect as I am, flaws and all. I'm already amazing. That's even the Captain Marvel story. That's the agenda. The ideologues are pushing those stories. Like, just realize how amazing you already are, how people are pushing you down, but you already are amazing. It's that same principle, even with the people who like the Punisher Batman. They want to hear a story that says it's okay to be psychologically tormented. It's okay to kind of get your jollies on the darkness. It's okay. You're still awesome. Just like that. You don't have to be better. They want those kinds of stories. They crave those kinds of stories. So we have to tear down characters like Thomas Wayne, who was always a philanthropist, who always wanted to help the city. Bruce Wayne was born into that. That's where he gets his initial heroism from his parents, that wanting to help others, wanting to serve the city. Now he realizes he has to do it in a certain way. Okay, once his parents are taken from him, that is a tragedy. It's a tragedy, but tragedies alone don't disqualify a hero from being an aspirational hero. It's their reaction to it. And as I've mentioned many times, Batman's reaction to that tragedy is something that psychologists call positive activism. Yes, there's the line in classic Batman, I am vengeance, I am the night. But that doesn't mean Bruce Wayne's out for vengeance, specifically, personally. He's not out to punish the criminals who killed my mommy and daddy. People really think that now. People are like, no, he's got to be psychologically tormented. He's got to. Oh my gosh, who hurt you? What is your damage? That's not him. No, that's part of the persona that he took on. He takes on the persona of the Bat because criminals are a cowardly and superstitious lot, and that this image of a bat-like creature taking vengeance upon the night and the criminals, that's the persona he's taking on to fight that. But he's psychologically well adjusted. That's why I really enjoy Tim Burton's take on Bruce Wayne, even though he took the character and did some things in the story that he shouldn't have done, because Bruce Wayne's not a psycho. He's not a bipolar, dual personality psycho or anything. He is both Bruce Wayne and Batman at the same time. This is just who he is. And you see that come out a little bit. You see Batman come out a little bit as he's Bruce Wayne. You see Bruce Wayne come out as he's Batman. He's not a dual, separated character or anything like that. So it's interesting how people want to change that. But he is aspirational. You can have tragedy in your life. I mean, Superman wasn't conscious when it happened, but his whole planet, he finds out later his whole planet was destroyed. And it's how you respond that makes you aspirational. So that's one confusion that was going on. A bigger confusion, though, is something that I've received comments on, a few times, but I wanted to clear it up as well. I was talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi recently in the wonderful book, the Kenobi by John Jackson Miller, and I said Kenobi is an aspirational hero. And somebody had the honest question. Now, I've heard this question before about either Kenobi or Captain America, something like that. How can a hero be aspirational if they kill? It's a good question. Killing doesn't automatically disqualify you from being aspirational hero. It depends on the rules of your universe. Superman and Batman can never, ever kill. The reasons are specific to each. Superman's the most powerful being in any room he enters. Even in alien settings where you've got creatures like Mogul or Dark Side or whatever, alien creatures who are just as strongly powerful as him, he proves to be the most powerful entity in any room he's in. For him to kill at any point would be for himself to become a tyrant, because we know that he could always find a better way. And well, what about this story and that story when he had to kill Zod because blah blah. If you're trying to write a story in which you're forcing Superman's hand, then you don't understand the character, and you need to go write a different character, because that's not what his archetype is for. His archetype is there to show you that there's always a better way. We know in life that's not always the case. I mean, not all of us hopefully are in situations, there are soldiers or law enforcement, who do have to face the question of whether or not to use force, and even lethal force at times. But that's not all of us, and it doesn't have to be just a question of lethal force. Those characters tell us that there's always a better way. Now, a Batman, for example, he should never kill, because Batman's already playing fast and loose with the system. The system in Gotham is corrupt, and he's there to fix it and to fight for justice. Not taking the law into his own hands and becoming a vigilante hangman jury and all of that. He's there to fill in the gap where the corruption of the law enforcement's not working in Gotham. And he works with Jim Gordon and so forth to do that. If he were to kill, and people make all these ridiculous justifications, if he didn't kill the Joker, then that's why he keeps coming back and people die. He needs to kill the Joker. That's what. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. He wouldn't be a hero then. He'd be a vigilante, not a superhero. If he's to kill anybody, he's no different than Anarchy or the Riddler or the Joker himself. He's got different reasons. That makes him a little specific, but he's just another costumed person going out there, ignoring the law and taking justice in his own hands. He shouldn't kill. Now look at a character like Captain America. Captain America was first empowered with the serum in World War II when he's a soldier. Okay, well, in the context of war, yeah, you can't just go tickle the Nazis. He's in war. People are shooting at him and his team, Allen Commandos and everything. So yeah, you see him use a gun in the comics or in the movie and stuff like that. As he's in World War II, that's acceptable. He's in a war. He's a soldier. Plus, he's not Superman in that war. He if you shoot him in the right place, you can kill Captain America. So it's a totally different story. It applies to the rules of that universe. Now, when Captain America comes back after being frozen and is a superhero, he doesn't carry around a gun. He carries just his shield because he has to be a symbol at that point, not in the context of a war, but in the context of as a superhero, he has to be better than that. You could still, I mean, it's not inconceivable that a story would be written for Captain America because he's got that soldier background. I won't get into specifics with that. It's not quite the same as a Superman deal, obviously, because of the power level and whatnot. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, again, that was the context of a war with the Clone Wars. Even though he's a Jedi, they're peacekeepers, not soldiers. They were called upon to be the generals in that war. And here's the thing, even if you have a hero like a Captain America or like a Obi-Wan Kenobi who are in a context in which it's acceptable at times for them to have to use lethal force, it should always be a last resort. They should never get any joy out of it, and it should always be a last resort. Always. That's part of the aspirational hero as well. Even if it's there, if it's conceivable or contextual for them to, go ahead and use lethal force at a story or at a time, it should always be a last resort. And it should be in line with the rules of their universe. I could probably say a lot more of that, but we are coming up right against the time here to start the book study. Let me close by going back to Batman for a second. I just want to make this point here because people always, the Snyder Bros are now the Matt Reeves fans, are so quick to say, no, bro, you don't understand it at all. He was going through that dark time because he needs to learn. The whole point of that story is that he learns he can't be killing and branding and torturing. The whole point of the Matt Reeves film is that he learns he has to be a symbol, and not vengeance. No, you are fooling yourself. You are straight up fooling yourself. These fans who just revel in the brutal Punisher Batman, they don't want a story where Batman has learned that he has to be better. He has to be a symbol. I guarantee you that when Matt Reeves' sequel to this Batman movie comes out, something in the story, somehow it's going to happen to where he's not Mr. Smiley Face, not that Batman's ever Mr. Smiley Face, but you know what I mean? He's not going to be Mr. Stand-up aspirational, I'm a symbol of hope. There'll be something in the story that makes him kind of stumble again or something like that because these people don't want stories about an aspirational hero, somebody who stands up and keeps their values. And they want stories about a hero who tells them that they don't have to be any better. They don't have to strive. They can just be as corrupt and twisted and damaged as they are, and that's just fine. You're still a hero. Don't let anybody tell you different. And it's the same thing with the ideologues. It's the same kind of message. In Hero, we're losing the hero story either through laziness or just through ideology or whatever. That classic hero story, you need to be better. This is why it's absurd that Obi-Wan Kenobi would, I'm a fallen, I don't know, I don't even a Jedi anymore. I don't even have to use the Force. No, for an aspirational hero would be reeling, as we saw in the Kenobi story, certainly after something like that happened and Anakin's, fall and stuff like that, certainly reels him quite a bit. He's got to deal with the loss of his family of Jedi, and when we see that in Kenobi, but he never, ever, aspirational hero can have failings. They can have problems, make mistakes, but they can never question that there's a right and a wrong, and it's always worth it and a duty to do the right. That's at the core of every aspirational hero. Can't be questioned, can't be confused over at all, ever. The details, the specifics around it, you can have Superman for All Seasons, wonderful Superman story in which Lex Luthor dupes him, creates a situation in which it dupes Superman into thinking that his presence in Metropolis, led to this woman's death. So he's thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't be there if my presence is leading to people's death. And he has to go through that and realize, okay, that wasn't a thing and stuff like that. That's fine, because at that moment, he's never questioning, is it even worth it to save lives anymore? I don't even know. No, life is paramount. He knows that life is important, and he was just tricked into thinking that his presence took a life. So it's clear to me because I've studied the archetype, but I'm happy to answer these questions anytime there's confusion. So if there's more confusion about this, I can do another video, a longer video, but it's time to go ahead and start the book study.